Hola! You are watching a Scoutcast on www.fantasyfootballscout.co.uk, and my name is Mark.
My name's John T.
My name's Andy.
My name's Lou.
My name's Az.
There's 5 of us. It's a bumper episode of the Scoutcast, which is probably going to go on beyond midnight, but it's deserving as such. It's the last Scoutcast of the season. We are literally, John T, on the beach.
We are. We're sunning ourselves, luxuriating, and all the lovely points that are coming our way.
Yeah.
And as the famous Scoutcast, midweek Scoutcast curse is now lifted, this is the first time where we can all come on here and say we actually got points, rather than utter disappointment.
Indeed, we were celebrating until Hal Robson-Kanu, who's meant to be on the bench. On the bench and on the beach. I've just seen Tony there at the bar by the beach there, and Hal Robson-Kanu delivers a goal, which puts a bit of a dampener. We were counting up our points for Caballero. A few of us have got City goalkeeper in there, and of all players, Hal Robson-Kanu scores for West Brom to kind of dampen the mood a little bit, just seconds before going on air. But we'll try and get over that, because there's no two ways about it. It has been perhaps not an outstanding bench boost, but an outstanding double game week so far, hasn't it, Jonty?
It has, yeah. We've just been counting up on points earlier, and the Caballero one was quite annoying. But it doesn't matter. We've got quite a few. But yes, we're going to talk a bit later about double game week and chip strategy and best time to use bench boosts and what, if anything, we've learnt this time around. But yeah, we've also got lots of other questions about Coutinho in particular, and lots of people are interested in our views about the season gone by, about any lessons learned there. And it's a little bit of a retrospective, but more importantly, people want to know what to do in game week 38, because after that's what
still a week to go. We better crack on, because this deck chair is only rented for an hour and a half, and he'll be coming around to get me off it. So let's get going. Yes, let's talk first about our game weeks. The game week's not over, is it? But we've got there's going to be a lot of big scores on FFS, and it's fair to say I can't remember a game week where we went into it thinking the 2 players we probably need are Jesus. Well, 3 players: Jesus, Sanchez, and perhaps De Bruyne. We talked about De Bruyne as well in his form, and all 3 have absolutely delivered, and there's a smattering of those players amongst us here. But I imagine on FFS there's going to be people with all 3, and are we going to see 200 scores? Are we out there? Surely we are, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we are. We just had, just while we've been on air in our live chat, we've got someone, Espen Langeveld. He's on 150 points. Yeah, he says, no doubt. But presumably, if he's bench boosted and got that, he's probably got about 3 or 4 more to go. So yeah, he could, players like that, if you're on about 160 tonight, 150, 160, and more to go, could be looking at a really big score, 200 maybe.
So I think I'm on about 125 with a bonus to come. No, yeah, it's not brilliant, but I'll certainly take it, because at 0-0, Sanchez then came in with a brace. Jesus has delivered as well, and De Bruyne, as we said, has done exceptionally well too. Big scores all round. Clean sheets didn't quite come in this time, but we've still got Southampton to come, still got Spurs to come, of course. So let's go round. Shall we? Who's next? We'll go to Andy next. How's your game week looking? You've got to be happy. Certainly your shirt suggests you are.
I'm extremely happy. Yeah, as always, double game week's eventually coming. People had already written it off, I think, before tonight. But after bonus, I'm going to be on 140. So with triple Spurs and double Southampton potentially to come, we don't know about Stevens yet. I could beat last year's score. I think I got 164, so not too far off of it. Obviously, ended up picking Ben Davies. I thought there was probably a bigger problem with Rose than they were letting on. Yeah. Turns out there was, and he was the best defender for Spurs last week. So that one, all right. Not a huge score yet, but yeah, Sanchez captain. And in the end, I didn't go De Bruyne. Didn't want to take the hit, so I got Sané in. Hasn't done anything tonight, but obviously got the double assist in the first game, and like everyone else, brought Jesus in. So yeah, 140 I'm looking at, and going to be well inside the top 10k after tonight, I think.
Bench boost, how did that go for you?
Yeah, so I got Pickford, Stevens, King, and Anichebe. I was hoping that Anichebe was going to be the saviour for this week. Just really wanted to see a goal, and obviously went off after like 40 minutes. But yeah, so once Pickford gets his bonus, it'll be 16 points plus anything from Stevens. So my highest points on the bench this year is 23. That was game week 1. I was never going to use my bench boost that week, so I'm not too disappointed about it, to be honest. I kind of wrote the chip off. 3 of those 4 players on my bench are as cheap as you can get, so it's not like I've put money into there to try and get the extra points. I've put all that in the first 11, because obviously there's game weeks either side of the bench boost as well. So yeah, happy days.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of debate about this. I mean, my two penny is that, yeah, the triple captain can be stronger. There's no doubt about it. If you put it on Sanchez, congratulations. But the thing about bench boost is there's almost like the ceiling isn't as high, perhaps, but you're guaranteed, I reckon you're guaranteed 15 to 20, even in a poor bench boost. And that's, this is on the verge of being a poor one. Caballero, had he got the clean sheet, I would have got 20 odd points, but it looks like I'm going to end up about 15, 16. I'll take that. It's not great, but this was more about the double game week than it was the bench boost. And playing the wild card prior to game week 37, yeah, the bench boost was gravy, but it was about a double game week, and luckily the double game week has delivered absolutely massively. Let's come to you now. You weren't in that situation. You didn't play your wild card, but how's it gone for you?
Well, I've taken 3 8-point hits in the last 4 weeks, and I've kind of plummeted down the rankings. That's been fun. I mean, it was awful until today. I took out Zaha for a hit and brought in Xhaka, which was quite exciting. I said I was going to go for it when I was last on, so I went for it. I brought in KDB and captained him, so that was fun tonight. And I took out Hennessy for Caballero. That didn't go too well, so pretty rubbish. And then I kept double hole defence, who both conceded to Zaha within 2 minutes, who I'd sold. So that was fun. And I triple Southampton. 2 didn't make the squad and 1 was benched. So,
not great at all, was it?
Not great, no. But tonight was excellent.
What are you on at the moment then?
I'm on 110 with an 8-point hit.
And you got Southampton to come tomorrow?
3 Southampton and 3 Spurs.
Okay.
So it could end up being all right.
Yeah, that should be pretty handsome.
Luke,
how are you doing?
And a bench boost of 11 all out. Just
11, yeah, poor, not great. Yeah. But I think it's going to get lost in the big double game week scores. I mean, I think we've got to look back when we've calmed down a bit and go, okay, maybe we do need to reconsider this bench boost late in the season. I think the conditions have been unforeseen. Spurs, had they not lost to Tottenham, lost to West Ham, it would have been a very different kind of Chelsea side last night, for example. And Achiba's injury, Holgate coming off at half-time. There's been some nasty little twists. How Robson-Carlo scoring a goal. Another unforeseen twist. Luke, how's your game week doing?
Yeah, pretty good. It was even better before tonight, really. I was on 102 before tonight, so really happy with that. Still pretty good. I think I'm around 135, something like that. So yeah, pretty happy. And I've also got Kane captain still to come. So anything that he does is obviously going to be a bonus. But story of it was Azpilicueta. Finally, first Chelsea defender I've had all season for the double game week. So it feels like he's paid back some of that Alonso sort of pain I've held for the whole season. Went with Fabregas as well.
Nice.
So that was good. Yeah, I had him obviously for the double game week prior to that, so I got his points there as well. It wasn't a transfer in or anything. Managed to save a free transfer, so I got 2 for the final day. So overall, couldn't be more happy really.
And a big jump in rank you expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I was around, I think it was 137,000, and before tonight, I jumped up to 39,000, so 100,000 places jumped, and then plus tonight and everything else to come. So I don't know where I
Very
end
respectable indeed. Now, talking to someone who's going to jump in rank quite dramatically, I imagine, Jonty, that's going to be the case for you. You're doing what? You're around 130 mark at the moment.
132 at the moment, and yeah, got Ali, Kane, and double Southampton defence to come. I'm expecting at least one of them, one of Stevens or Yoshida to play. Hopefully both. I
think it'll be Stevens' turn, won't it?
I think it'll be Stevens' turn. It's just whether Yoshida plays tonight. He's captain. There've been lots of pictures of him in training, scoring an amazing scissor kick goal. It was quite spectacular. So yeah, I mean, I captained Sanchez, pretty happy with that. Bench boost is on 16, so I'd consider that kind of bare minimum that I'd be happy with, and so happy with that. I did use a transfer. Koscielny's injury, it worried me, and I did think a clean sheet was definitely on the cards against Sunderland, so I got Monreal in. That's paid off. I mean, not spectacularly, but in the scheme of things, but happy with that. And so yeah, I mean, considering I was at the 1.8 million mark just before Christmas in the rankings, and by going into tonight, I was at the 170,000 mark. I think there's a possibility I may end within the top 100,000, but I don't really have a ranking ambition because it's all pretty poor. So it's more about mini leagues, and it looks like I might just be within the cash places finally of one of my mini leagues. So you're
going to beat my worst season ever. So you're going to, even though you'll put it down as a terrible season, it won't be as bad as my worst season.
No.
I came 173,000 or something once. So.
100, yeah. I mean, I'll be. We'll come to this later about what went right and wrong with our season, but I can briefly explain kind of what went wrong and what's gone right again.
Yeah, well, we're all looking forward to that. I love listening to Joe moan about his season. It's one of my favourite things to see. It doesn't happen often, but so revel in that while we can. So yeah, I mean, in general, I mean, it comes across as gloating a bit, but I think on the FFS there's going to be bigger scores than ours. I think there's going to be some huge ones out there. I think it's just a rarity that Sanchez, who was overwhelmingly going to be the captain, if not Jesus, for both of them to come in with big scores. It means there's going to be a lot of happy people this evening, dented slightly by the conceding the goal for City. But with Spurs to come, with Southampton to come, who knows what Southampton can do against United, who aren't interested. Spurs and Leicester might be goals in that. It's going to be some huge scores. So people on FFS should be pretty happy about now. And I think we kind of get we're in this bubble, aren't we? Because of what we do on the Scoutcast, what we do on the site, we get this impression that everyone's doing what we do, and that. In order for us to do well out of it, we've got to do something exceptional in that. You actually haven't, because I think by getting Jesus and Sanchez in, that'll be enough for a lot of people to jump in rank quite considerably, because there aren't people around us who have played the wild card in 36 and prepared in the way we have. The numbers aren't huge, are they, Jonty?
No, I mean, I was just looking earlier at the FPL Discovery site, and they think that the overall average score just tonight was about 15 or 16. That's 1-5, but within the top 10,000, it was around 50. So we've all got scores of around 50. So we're kind of par for the course of those that wildcarded, bench boosted, all of those things. But those that didn't, there's obviously loads of them. So we've all got a good 30. For someone like me in my ranking position, that's great. For yourselves, possibly less so, because you're competing against people who've got similarly good scores. But there are going to be people around you, wherever you are in the top 10,000, who really haven't done that well, and you're just going to overtake them. So yeah, it's a big rankings boost.
Yeah, well, I looked at it. Only 53 of the top 100 actually captain Sanchez, which is quite surprising. You think, that was obviously it was.
You must be you're in a good position to definitely have replaced.
Yeah, you've got to remember, Mark, that people in the top 100 may have ambition of trying to win the thing. They've got to be different. There's only 2 game weeks left.
There is that, and in fact, Uwe, who was second, Captain Kane, and he's going to be hurting tonight. He's got to hope that Kane comes in tomorrow. Yeah. He had Sanchez, but went with Kane. So there is that element, of course, as well. But it's been a good game week. There's no two ways about it. Let's look at rough with the smooth. I mean, this is a strange one because we went into this without tonight's scores in there. But mainly about Coutinho, another player who we're always expecting a single game week player to come out. In the past, it's been the Spurs players. Last season, it was certainly that, Kane and Ali and so on. But it's Coutinho this time around, wasn't it?
Well, this is why I just focused on Coutinho, because it just shows the highs and the lows of a double game week, where that single game week player that you dumped does really well. It's really annoying. So you're desperate. So it's a kind of, rather than a rough and no smooth, it's a rough and then the smooth, especially for those that got rid of Coutinho for KDB. So Coutinho got 19 points. KDB looks like he's on for 16 points. That's okay. So a sigh of relief there. So FPL Virgin and John Ross are amongst those who got rid of Coutinho. They were heartbroken. Now they can be much happier as well. Pep says he shipped Coutinho for Sané, so a little less happy. Holmes, he shipped Coutinho for Hazard. He's not going to be happy. And and Mac Rapes, he got rid of him for Sterling. He's really not going to be happy because Sterling wasn't in the first 11. So that's an ouch. And here's another one as well. There's a guy, Giles Wanlin, that I've mentioned before. He's top of my Millionaires League. He is the top Phoenix this year. So he had a game week rank below 1 million. Above the 1 million mark at game week 12. He's now somewhere in the top 5,000 or so, 6,000. He benched Coutinho. He has no bench boost. I have no idea why he did that, but I guess he was focusing on those double game week players. So he's got Gabbiadini and Stevens in his 11. So he's really going to be looking at those team sheets, and he's going to be hoping that Gabbiadini or Stevens doesn't make it.
When he played 4 at the back over Coutinho.
Yeah, and so if that doesn't happen, if one of those two is benched, then he's going to be a happy man. But if Stevens or Gabbiadini comes in the last minute, he's going to be absolutely hard.
I don't fancy his chances, really.
No, I don't either.
Just to clear it up, Jonty is in a league called the Millionaires League. He's not a millionaire, as you can probably tell by the state of his hat.
Well, in terms of rank,
But anyone listening for the first time would be like, "This Jonty guy, he's bragging about his game week. Now he's going on about being a millionaire."
All of us. We just put $1 million in. That's it.
Okay, let's talk about double game week strategy, shall we? Because there's a bit of hindsight involved here, but there was a lot of discussion about it, wasn't there? A lot of people going, "We should have triple captained." And I think we saw it last season. We thought that, okay, we got it right. This is the way to do it. Perhaps we played bench boost in the wrong order compared to triple captain. I tried it the other way this time. My triple captain wasn't great. Sergio Aguero, 9 points. My bench boost wasn't great, 16 points. Maybe, there's no maybe about it. Maybe we do play up the power of these chips. There's no doubt that they do add excitement to the end of the season. And there's no doubt that double game week is powerful, as tonight has demonstrated. We've got lots of questions on this, though, Jonty.
Yeah, so all about the Galacticos asks, has this season changed our opinion of when to use chips and wildcards? You're saying double game weeks this year haven't really delivered on their promise. I think this one has. I think we can say this one has. But I do know what he means. In general, they haven't. So, for example, game week 27, when we all went for Man City options, Aguero got 9 points, very popular triple captaincy. That's nowhere near what Sanchez got tonight. And so, yeah, I can see what he means. But yeah, so we could argue that one of the things he's talking about as well is using things like the bench boost and the wildcards around these very late fixtures. Now, we saw this last season with Europa League, with Liverpool. We're seeing it obviously with Manchester United. We've learnt from that. We're all ignoring Manchester United. We know they're going to rotate. But then, yeah, we've seen it as well with Chelsea as well, the Southampton team sheets as well. Massive rotation. How many of us with our 13 to 14, 15 double game weeks actually got 2 games out of them? Well, hardly anyone. I mean, you've really got to nail those double game weekers. So I do know what he means there. And I think tonight has shown the power of the double game week and the wild card. But I do know what people like all about the Galacticos are saying about the strategy, and there perhaps is, depending when the double game weeks fall next year, there probably is probably a good argument for using it earlier when a lot of this threat rotation is out of the way.
I think the chips are almost like giving birth. You kind of forget the pain and just get excited again when it comes round, and just forget the agony and excuse. I mean, I've never given birth, but I think this is the case. So I think a bench boost is very much like popping one out. Andy, what's your views on this? Let's go round the team. I mean, do we need to rethink when we play these chips, or is what we've done this year the right way around it?
I have to say it's the right way around, because once again, same as last year, my rank is super increased after the wild card. Last year I didn't finish anywhere near as high as I'm going to this year. But that's not because of when I played my wild card. That's because I messed up the rest of the season. So I think triple captain you definitely keep for a double game week. I think you're playing the odds there. Your player's got 2 games, more likely to score more points. Bench boost is the one I've probably changed my mind on a bit. I don't know if it's worth as much as we probably originally thought it was. And I think I probably said that last year as well. And it also depends on how much money you got to. And like I said, my bench boost was 3 of the cheapest players in the game, so I could get a full 11 out. Yes, I could have probably got more for my bench boost if I picked more expensive players, but then I would have lost money elsewhere. So a roundabout way, it didn't really matter. So bench boost, I will not necessarily say for a double game week next year, I don't think. I will use it where possible. And I think I'll have to keep my triple captain for the better double game week. Obviously, this year I used it earlier in Aguero. So lost out on about 18 points there, so it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I'll use my wildcard when I need it. I got a lot of stick for taking a lot of points. I think I took 40 points worth of hits between game week 27 and 34. So in 7 game weeks, I took 40 points worth of hits. But I went from 123k to 28k and still had my wildcard in hand. So people always talk about wildcards and hits. If you use the wildcard early, you have to take hits later. If you use hits earlier, you take the wildcard later, etc. And the thing with hits is that sometimes they'll work and sometimes they won't. It's just luck of the draw. So I think Az will tell a different story in a minute, because he used his wildcard early and now he's having to take hits and maybe got a few of them wrong. Next year, you can do the same and get the hits right. So I think you save the wildcard as long as you can. And if you can get to the double game week, then perfect for me.
Yeah, well, let's go to ours next. I mean, your experience is very different to ours. I mean, have you learned anything from this season doing what you did?
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know. I played my wild card when all the blanks were happening, and I think I worked it out. The wild card actually got me within 2 weeks about 50 points. I was about 50 points up on what I would have done if I hadn't played it. So I was pretty happy with that. And then my plan was to just be boring and just get in all the players, get ready for the double game weeks, which I knew were coming on the horizon. So, and I just got burned by injury. So I brought in Harry Kane, who got injured. I brought in Gabbiadini, who got injured. I made a mistake getting in Tadic. I made lots of problems that were probably the right option to get at the time. But in the end, I ended up having to take loads of hits to get rid of them. And I mean, 3 8-point hits in 4 weeks is just something I've never played the game like that before. I bought in Rashford, and then United got to the final when they were getting all rotated. So I don't know how much better I would have been off if I'd waited. But I think there was a lot of bad luck involved. So like Andy said, if it happened again next year, I could get those hits right, and then I'd have the 50 points and have all the points at the end of the season as well. So I still think if your team needs it, at any point in the season, the wild card is there to be used, not just for double game weeks. I don't think it can be solely used for double game weeks. My team was in a complete shambles. It would have been, I was on a 12-point hit before I used it, and I probably would have had to take more. So I think the wild card's a very tricky one. I don't think there is a right or wrong answer with it. The other chips are a bit more set in stone, I think. So I wish I'd waited with the all-out attack, because that actually would have come in quite useful.
Yeah.
Like you said, Mark, a few weeks ago. I wasted that and got about 3 or 4 points from it. And I could actually have got about 10 points from it a few weeks ago, which would have been really helpful. The bench boost, I'm not convinced it's always the best around this time. I could have used that a few weeks ago and got 20 points when I was debating it. So, you know, that's a difficult one. And the triple cap just has to be used on the double game week. So I think we're kind of doing things right, but I think we are seeing there is opportunities now to use these chips at different times, and I think we do go along with the herd a bit, but sometimes it might be beneficial to use it a bit earlier.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because 2 seasons now we've done this, and it's not gone disastrously wrong. Not wrong enough where I would look at it and go, I'm definitely going to have to rethink it. But at the same time, it's not gone massively. It's nowhere lived up to our expectations. So we're not totally satisfied with how it's gone. There could be a way of refining it and making it better. You know, when else would we play the bench boost? Well, would we play it with the first wild card? Like, because you think about it, it's pretty much a given that most people now, or certainly most people in FFS, look at the wild card and go, the first one and play, I'm going to play it around going 3 or 4 when the market's begin to pick up, when players have come forward, like missed, bandwagons are underway. I'll do the wild card then, get the essential players at the time, catch the price rises. If you think about it, you could populate your bench really strongly and play the bench boost immediately after. And if anything, you're going to be less prone to rotation at that point in the season, whereas in game week 37, Europa League and lack of motivation.
And people are taking out players like Zaha and King to bring in players like me, bringing in Xhaka, who have got double game weeks, and actually it was just the wrong move. So the bench boost actually could have cost you points rather than actually gained you some if you hadn't taken those players out. Yeah.
So maybe we do need to look at it. Jonty, what's your views on that? I mean, do you still stand by triple captain, done and dusted, double game week every time, right?
Yeah.
Which double game week? Maybe it is better of use to use it in this one because Sanchez was the obvious captain pick.
Well, I think it's going to change each season, and I mean, there's basically usually 3 double game weeks, and there's usually 2 biggies and 1 really biggie, like the one we're in at the moment. It makes sense. I still think to play a bench boost during the double game week. I think this week has shown really that the best thing is to use the wild card just before it. So in terms of using your wild card around the double game weeks, using the wild card before you use the bench boost rather than the triple captaincy, because that key triple captaincy candidate, you can just get in or just get in with a hit. But with a bench boost, you have to have surgery to get that. And we all spent time on doing that. There were some unfortunate things that happened. But so, for example, we've got 16. I think that's fair enough. I've got that extra 16 points there. That's the bare minimum I'd want. But using the wildcard before it meant that the rest of my team, so for example, I didn't have Gabbiadini. I mean, he may well score a hatful on Thursday after this goes out. But we had that knowledge because we saw how poor he was in that game. Those that wildcarded before that would have got Gabbiadini in because he looked a great prospect. when it was transpired that he wasn't. So we had the edge there, so we could start looking at things like, well, actually, I'm going to get Jesus in, or I'm going to get in, maybe use some of that money, get Anachibi in, that could have worked out as a 4-point, and then channel some of that money to get, say, Ericsson or, one of the Chelsea ones in. Where it fell down is that we didn't factor in West Ham beating Spurs.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me slightly thought about it, but I just didn't. Yeah, I mean, I thought. I mean, I held off getting triple Spurs anyway, just because of what happened to them last season. But yeah, no, that's what I think. I think knowledge is the power with that bench boost, and you need that to get that in. I think we did the right things. Holgate was the right thing. It was an Everton clean sheet. Holgate didn't get it though. Anachibi is like 4 points. Okay, but when's he ever going to get you 4 points? It's just, it all adds up. Caballero almost did as well, so it was almost nearly. But yeah, I like the way it's set up at the moment, and I would definitely do the same again. The only thing is, I might be doing a wild card before an earlier double game week and maximise the bench boost then, because it all depends on who's in Europa League, who's in the Champions League, how the teams are set up. So, for example, and it all depends on player by player. So, Caballero, we all got him in. Why did we get him in? Because he's nailed on. There's no way he wasn't going to play. Yeah. But then you get these other players like the Southampton defenders. You kind of know you're taking a risk. Well, in my case, I got Pedro in. I knew I was taking a bit of a risk there. But you try and get in the nailed-on players that you can, and you need the wild card before that. You need to get the most knowledge you can. Yeah,
Lou. I mean, you agreeing with all this?
Yeah, I still maintain that it offers the most potential, but that's all it is. It's potential. At the end of the day, for every one of us that's saying it's 15 points, we're kind of happy. There will be someone out there who's netted a massive score from it, and we could be that person next year. It just goes around in loops. And if you actually look at the game week, I mean, in terms of essential players so far for this week, you'd say Jesus, Sanchez, and if you had Azpilicueta. So all that other expensive defence, we've got all those other players and stuff. It turned out pretty minor scores at the end of the day. So if you'd have picked the right players, then you could have had a massive score off your bench. There's luck involved in it. I don't care what anyone says. In an individual game week, or in this case two, so much luck plays a part. You only have to look at the top scorer every week, like Vokes, I think it was the week before. It's nice how I slipped that in for my Fantasy Island risk, but you can't predict that sort of stuff. It's only over a sheer number of games you can look at the data, and the top players are going to rise to the top over the course of a season. But in an individual game week, anything can happen, and someone will have got it right.
I think one thing people always do as well, and we'll probably come on to this later when we talk about what we've learned, is usually people learn what they say they have learned is what would have worked last season. So we're now saying that the wild card, maybe we should have kept it for the double game week, but then this year the big double game week was in 37, whereas last year it was in 34. So if it's in 34 next year, do we still say that the wild card wasn't worth, or the double game week was not worth saving for?
Yeah, exactly.
At that point, exactly. At that point, there's probably less finish. Like the league won't be finished by game week 34, most likely. Europa League, I think we did learn from that because we just steered clear of Man United completely. So I just think we've just got to wait till next season, really, see when the double game week falls, and it could be in 34, and that's much better than.
I am open to.
To be fair, we've got massive scores in this double game. I don't see what the problem is with it, to be honest. Overall,
I was just going to say I am open to game week 1. By the way, like you were saying, using the wild card and bench boost, potentially using your bench boost in game week 1. Literally just filling your team with mid-price players to cover all bases, potentially get quite a good start because you've got more players than anyone else, so you're likely to get a decent start, and then use the early wild card, and then that kind of takes that out of there, and you've got probably pretty high chance of getting a decent bench boost.
That is maverick.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have the balls to do that. I was thinking that the other day. I was lying there thinking, maybe a bench boost game week 1 because. That's you effectively start the season with a wild card. You pick your team. You could have a strong bench. The only thing is, obviously, normally game week 1 or 2 people think, they're definitely going to start, and they'd end up not starting. Exactly. You've got to have 15 starters, and this game week has proved it's very difficult to get that at game week 37. At the point where you reach game week 37, team sheets are so hard to predict, and certainly this season they have been. Whereas earlier in the season, you've got to think rotation is less of a factor. So there might be something in it, but I don't think we're going to have the balls to do it differently, are we?
No. And also the game week 1. I mean, game week 1 and game week 38. They're lotteries in terms of who's gonna start and play. You make all of those plans, and how many of those plans? I mean, how many of us wildcard in game week 3 or 4 because our initial team. So that shows it. I mean, this season we all had Kapue who scored, and I got 27 points I think on my bench in game week 1 because it was the unexpected happen. So yeah, bench boost would have been great then. I would have got 9 points more, but that's a real risk. I mean, you didn't know. I mean, we saw Kapue in training and the friendlies doing really well, but we didn't think he would get all of those goals early on, realistically.
I think though, like it's what we've said before, the bench boost, you have to set it up. You can't have so much money on your bench all the time. So they've basically got 2 occasions. It's either after a wild card or after game week 1. I don't really see any other time where it would happen unless it just happens to fall that way.
Exactly, yeah.
I can see the logic, yeah. I mean, that's why I think a wild card and a bench boost is the perfect timing because you need that knowledge, whereas you don't necessarily for the triple captaincy.
Yeah. But by all means, if it falls on a week where you're looking at your bench and you're thinking, hang on a minute here, this looks pretty tasty, then, you know, I'm more open.
But that doesn't happen very often, does it?
No, exactly. Yeah, usually it's some absolute chump on my bench.
And also, if you play it early, you've got X number of game weeks where everyone on the site is going, well, you wasted that, didn't you? Because wait until we get to game week 37.
This is what I was going to say. Since I wildcarded, you know, back in 10 weeks ago, or whatever, I've enjoyed the game a lot less because I knew that I didn't have that wild card waiting for me. And it is a big thing. Like, I've found myself taking hits just because to get a bit of the buzz back. So, yeah, I think
that sounds really dodgy. That sounds
I'm like an addict.
They're Moorish, though. Moorish.
Yeah,
they are. They really are Moorish.
Yeah, we've certainly learned that this season. Any more questions on this? There's a few more on strategies, isn't there, John?
Well, I mean, I think we've really covered it, really. I mean, Pep says, I mean, talking about that point we made earlier about the double game week squad of 15. You know, is it realistic ever? It's definitely not realistic in this part of the season. We know that now. And arguably it's not. There were still benchings in game week 27 with Manchester City as well. There were still unexpected ones there.
But there have been 15 players who have started both games. So again, it comes down to players. There will be someone who has got 15.
You've got to get that right. But it's the ones that you want to get in.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the element of luck comes in. Someone may have used it and got 15 double game weeks.
Definitely.
It's just the nature of it. Right? A double game week is a weekend match followed by a midweek match. What squads out there don't rotate in that scenario, or at least don't dangle the risk of rotation? Most do. You know, there's probably about 5 or 6 teams where you think they're not going to rotate week to week.
Like with Caballero, Davies as well at Spurs, you need to be able to pinpoint those players that there isn't an alternative. And in a way, if we'd have thought about it, it sounds good with hindsight now. Azpilicueta's played every game, you know, straight to finish. He's clearly the main man that he trusts in that defence more than any of the others. I mean, he scored that goal. This is his first goal all season, but. You know, that's where the good luck comes into it.
But equally,
it's trying to find those players.
He played right wing back so he could rest Moses. He could have played Pedro there, but I guess he's thinking, I don't want to play Pedro. Right? That's
why I got Pedro in, because I thought, because Pedro's quite versatile, Pedro can play as a striker, he can play on the wing, he can play a wing back. So that's why I got him in. And I did get that 1 point out of him. But yeah, that's exactly it. Trying to nail them down. But yeah, so all the questions are on that similar thing, really.
Okay, game week 38. Someone's asked us to put a wildcard team together. Haven't we enough of wildcards?
Yeah, so this is basically follows on from our colleague Spencer last week, who infamously made 40 points worth of hits.
Yeah, we mentioned it last week briefly, didn't we?
For about half an hour. He forgot to press the wildcard button, basically. So he had to set up his team to go with the bench boost. So he was not going to waste that bench boost. So he's going into game week 38. In a very rare position of actually having a wildcard. So we just saw some of the people. EP asked if you'd saved your wildcard all season, what would your game week 30 team look like? And it's quite a good way of discussing some top game week 38 targets for people trying to claw up their leagues really. One of the things I've approached this in is game week 38 is different. It is special. Crichton, one of our community writers, did something on why we should use the all-out attack chip in game week 38. His reason is it's goals. And go back, have a look at that article, and he looked at the average goals per game week for the last 5 seasons, and then you looked at the average in game week 38, there's a huge difference. So, for example, last year there was 35 goals in game week 38, and there was 27 in the game weeks on average. The season before, 25 on average, and it went up to 29, and it's so on and so on. So, but I did a bit of further research into it. It's not just a goal fest, not just goals. It's home goal fest. And and you can see the logic in it. So suddenly they're off the beach. We're all on thinking about the beach now. The teams are, but when it comes to that final home game of the season, they want to impress. So all of those thoughts of holidays go out the window and they turn on the stuff, and the evidence shows it. So last season, there were no away wins in game week 38. Goals scored by home sides, 26. Goals scored by away sides, 9. And there were some biggies as well. Villa got hammered 4-0 by Arsenal. Everton 3-0 Norwich. Newcastle 5-1. They hammered Spurs. And Southampton 4-1 at Palace. These sides, some had something to play for, some didn't, but they absolutely turned it on at home. And same previous season, there were just 2 away wins. The goals scored by home sides 23, away side 6. Arsenal again 4-0. They hammered West Brom. Chelsea 3-1 Sunderland. Stoke 6-1 Liverpool. Form book. Chucked it out the window. Game 38, goals at home. So, after all of that spiel, this is what I would do if you had a wild card for game 38. Absolutely load up on home attack and go really light at the back, because there isn't going to be many clean sheets. So I would have something like Heaton for Burnley. He's a reliable clean sheet at home. You've got Mawson, Stevens and Yoshida. Go for a Southampton double up. Really cheap. And then you invest it all. So I would get like Coutinho in. Home at Middlesbrough, Sanchez, Sigurdsson, Pedro, I would think, perhaps another Chelsea midfielder. Keep an eye on the press conferences. I get Costa in. He's probably going to play. I get someone like Rooney in, bit of a differential, and we'll come to that in our fancy on and risk. And I would get Vardy in. He's almost guaranteed points at the moment. He was always getting them. And at home, last game of the season. So these are the players I would go for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a clear pattern. We've had some big hat-tricks as well. We had Giroud last season. Walcott season before that. You go back to the Lukaku hat-trick against United, even Shoya and Newcastle. Some big events that could swing mini leagues. I remember Ginswick almost. He didn't captain Walcott. Had he captained Walcott, he would have beaten Simon, I think, to the FBL crown. It was an incredible turnaround, and he almost caught him up. So we have to expect the unexpected in game week 38. It's going to be, we expect to be full of goals. We expect that much. And like you say, the home sides, I think, because they're playing in front of their own supporters last game of the season, the away team have got a couple of thousand in the stand to play to. Yeah, you kind of think that be on the cards again. And the players you mentioned, Liverpool at home, Swansea at home, nothing to play for now, relaxing. West Brom lost 3-1 tonight. Been on the beach for about 4 or 5 weeks already. The one that troubles me is I'm going into that final game with 3 Spurs attackers and hoping that relegated Hull won't put on a show. Can they put on a show? Are they capable? Will Spurs be motivated? Leicester, I think, owned Bournemouth. You're absolutely right. So I think this is a chance, and no one's got a wild card going. Well, apart from Spencer. That's the only way you would have a wild card left. But are we talking about taking hits? I mean, is it worth one last hurrah than taking hits? Andy, how are you feeling about game week 38? How are you going to approach it?
Yeah, I think a big question, which I don't think we've got on in the list of questions tonight, is how Chelsea are actually going to line up. Because I don't know how many of you guys are still going, but I've got Hazard. The fact he just played 90 minutes, I'm a bit worried now. Whereas I think the rest of the players that got rested will probably come in. So the one I'm eyeing up is Costa. I just think if any striker's going to go big, and you want to keep someone sensible, then I'm looking at bringing in Costa maybe for a hit. If I really don't think Hazard's going to play, I'm going to switch him for -4. But I do see the risk because obviously they have to earn that 4 points back in that game week. So, and plus I'm also on 96 points worth of hits. So there's something about it makes me want to get to 100, but that's a different matter. If you're looking really differential, I'm eyeing up Sturridge for Liverpool. I think he's been doing all right recently. There's obviously maybe a problem if Firmino comes back that Sturridge will be the one to drop out and Origi will keep his place. But I don't think Origi's looked that good recently. So I wonder if Sturridge will keep his place. So differential-wise, I'm looking at someone like him. I think Johnny's mentioned most of the main ones I go for. If you're looking at Man United, if you think they can turn it on finally, which looks unlikely, I know, but someone like Martial maybe.
I just don't see it with them. I think
that really is a punt because
Liverpool and Arsenal. I mean, Liverpool are the team for me. I mean, they've got to go for goals, and they've got to go for a win. Arsenal have got to go for a win. They're both at home. Liverpool got Borough. I mean, you got to think they can put 2 or 3 past them. And I think you're right. Coutinho and Sturridge would be my punt. Costa, I don't know how to approach Chelsea. But Sunderland show tonight, they got some fight in them still. They kept Arsenal out for a good while, and who's going to get the hour? I mean, you're right about Hazard. Hazard probably the villain of game week 37. A lot of people got him in, me included, thinking he would do something. He played both games, got 5 points. I don't think will he not start? I mean, it was surprising that he got 90 minutes. First time in 5 weeks he got 90 minutes, which to me seems to be setting him up for a rest, doesn't it? So Chelsea, I agree, very difficult to read. How many Chelsea players are you going into? I mean, as Piccoletta played two in 37. Do you think he's going to get a rest? And what do you think about Chelsea in general?
Surely, Azpilicueta and Hazard are the biggest risks going to 38. I mean, I sold Hazard last week because I didn't think he'd play against Watford, and I saw him starting up front. I thought, oh my God, this is going to hurt, but got away with that. I think Costa's going. I think he's going to play a strong team, but Terry's going to play, and you have to think, he can bring in Cahill and Luiz and just bench Azpilicueta instead and give him a rest. They would be. I just think that those 2 are definitely going to miss out at the weekend. If you've got them, sorry, Luke, I would be probably looking to shift one or both of them, just because I don't think they're playing.
And Alonso's going to come in, and not being funny, the way Alonso played against Borough, he could be a captain pick.
He's a captain shout, absolutely. I'm considering him. I
mean, you can't see Sunderland scoring necessarily. Courtois going for the Golden Glove, is it? I think.
Then again, Conte is a notorious rotator, and you never, double guessing that type of manager will often lead to disaster. So it does come with some risk. He could end up benching the old one.
They'll chase on the record. Sorry, go on.
I just don't see Alonso missing 2 games in a row, because then he's not played before the cup final for 15 days or something. That's too much of a break. You need to get him out there, I think. So I think he's going to start, and clean sheet, and then how many goals could Chelsea get? It's very difficult to read that one. But Jonty's point about home goals is impressive.
I think Fabregas is a good pick and a good captain shout, because it's probably going to be Matic and Kante in the final. And then Fabregas missed last week as well, so I think he's probably the most sure starter, and a good pick if you can get him in. Yeah, he'd be my if I'm allowed it, he'd be my fancy on the risk. I think Fabregas, because I think that's a low ownership. His form at home. He has got a goal and assist in 10 of his last 11 home games. So returns in 10 of the last 11 at Stamford Bridge. It's guaranteed he's going to get you something. If I was transferring Hazard out, I probably would look to Fabregas and then use the funds up front. Luke, what's your views on 38? What are you going to do? And what, in particular, Chelsea, because you've got Azpilicueta and Hazard there?
I honestly don't know. I mean, just to play devil's advocate, you can look at it another way as well. Alonso, you could look at it and say he's so key to Chelsea at left wing back. Why risk getting him injured for the cup final? He may just think, do you know what, I'll give him a break. You could look at it that way. Same way with Fabregas. Yeah, I can see, Kante and Matic have been their best option all season. They've carried him through. But Fabregas' form is so good. How could you leave him out for the cup final? I think you have to try and fit him in the way he's playing at the moment. So just playing devil's advocate, none of us know at the end of the day. Hopefully, press conferences might tell us a little hint towards it or something. But if it was me, I'd just be getting triple Liverpool, triple Arsenal, people who've got something on it. I mean, Matip, Coutinho and Sturridge, that would be my spine of the team probably. Can't see Middlesbrough doing anything at all. Probably triple Arsenal as well. Man City, they're just scoring a lot of goals. I know they're away, but it's Watford. They're shocking. You've got to get some City in there. So, yeah, Vardy. Again, Costa, I wouldn't, unless there was a hint that he was going to start, it's probably a bit of a risk. And the way he's been partying since, there's no telling what kind of performance he put out. It might not even last.
That is a very good point. That is a very good point. I mean, so what's the maximum hits you would take? Would you go to an 8 or...
Again, I think it depends totally on where you are in your mini leagues and stuff. If you've got no ambitions and you're not worried about Hall of Fame and overall rank at the end of the season, which I'm not particularly. So for me, with 2 free transfers, I might be inclined to literally almost a mini wildcard with 3 or 4 moves and just go for it. I mean, I haven't really got anything to lose. Mini league positions, nothing up in the air for me. It comes down to that for me. Jonty's almost in his money where he is. So for him, you might be more careful about it. You yourself, top 100 at risk. You've got stuff riding on it. So it comes down to the individual, I think.
Jonty, where are you going? I mean, after this week, you've got some profit to spend hits-wise. Are you going to ride that wave of optimism?
I have taken hits before on the final game week, and it's actually quite frustrating because you really see that you need to get that back, and even if you get that back, you've got no more other game weeks to use those to kind of profit from. So I'm not so keen. I have done it in the past. I got Aguero. Got Aguero in for a hit when he scored that goal against QPR. But I think he only got 6 points in that match. So I just got my hit back. That's all I got. But I did get the thrill of him scoring, obviously. And I have previously got a hit in for Coutinho on the final day. And Coutinho is a player I'm looking at getting in probably for Hazard. Because I'm going with that. It's a bit of a risk. If Hazard plays, he's at home against Sunderland. So that's a huge risk getting rid of Hazard if they think he's going to play. But I'm just going for these. As I said, it's goals at home. You want to be targeting those players in, really. And most of my attackers, apart from those 2 Spurs ones, are at home. So I mean, Ali could go even. I mean, I think the Golden Boot is an incentive for Kane. But, you know, is there much incentive? I mean, we've seen, I think Hull will turn it on. I think we've seen, I mean, this is it. Over the last 2 seasons, there's been 2 away wins, and they were both 1-0 over the last 2 seasons in Game Week 38. So that says to me that if you've got an away attacker, they're probably not going to, if they can score, you might be lucky to get a goal.
Yeah, I agree with you, but we're talking about a team that's lost to Sunderland at home, then lost 4-0 to Palace against Spurs, who arguably are still the best team at the moment. Maybe
you know, they were really good last season, and then they got hammered 5-1 by Newcastle. Not just 2-1 or 1-0, 5-1.
Don't see it this time.
I can't see Hull doing anything. Maguire's out as well, isn't he?
But then you're saying I can't see Spurs getting beaten by West Ham.
No.
Who would say that? I mean, no one would have written that result off.
You know, and I didn't think that either. Lots of us didn't think that, and then it happened. So what I'm saying is, the evidence shows is that if you're a home side, you're going to be trying to score as many goals as you can, and if you're away side, you're going to be lucky to get one.
I think that'll play into Spurs' hands more than anything in this particular occasion. With Maguire out as well, we'll see. I guess it's a lottery at the end of the day. We all know it's a bit of a lottery, but
it is, and that was the initial point. Game week 1, game week 38, always a bit of a lottery. I think there's one thing that we know there's going to be goals, but yeah, who's going to be scoring them? That's where the lottery comes in. That's where you get these obscure hat-trick heroes. Watson, can't do anyone? Yeah, Kevin Nolan, indeed. Yeah.
Simon Choi, wasn't
absolutely.
it? Simon Choi, or whatever his name is? Yeah.
Who's it going to be? Well, when we get to the weekend preview, we should add a category in there. Who's going to get the hat trick? We'll do that. We'll do that for the weekend preview coming up next. But first, a quick review of the season and some questions on that. I'm not going to dwell on this because I mean we're going to do a lot of this in the summer anyway, and we'll do this when the player list comes out and so on. We'll have a Scoutcast around those times as well. But let's have a quick, in a nutshell, review of the season, how we think it went. Jonty, some questions on this?
Yeah, so FPL Virgin, what did we get wrong? What did we get right? Mike Harborough, what lessons have we learned? And how difficult would you rate the season compared to others? So I'll go quickly first. Basically, my season is in 3 lumps. Game week 1 to 6, absolutely fine. I was averaging 54 points a game week against an overall average of 46. Ticking along nicely. Game week 6, you remember I famously tried to get rid of Firmino, who scored a brace for Lallana, who got carted off injured as part of an 8-point hit. So I went Maverick, basically, and I continued to do so. And I also left myself, so there's lessons learned here. I invested a lot in Ibrahimovic and Sanchez. You don't have a lot at the beginning. And I didn't have those backup players. So once your 2 really expensive players fail you, and if you don't have those quite good backup players, like for example Kyle Walker was doing well then, some of the Chelsea players, if you don't have them, you're stuck. And I was absolutely plummeted, and partly because I'm on the Scoutcast, and partly I just decided to just keep doing it, keep taking hits. So I just went completely off message until about game week 23, when I decided to kind of rein it back in a bit and just go normal. And then game week 20, so basically during that off period, where it went wrong, where I took loads of hits, and it's not my game. Basically, I was averaging 46 against an average of 46.5, so I was averaging below average. And then from game week 24, I used hits wisely, strategically. I got players like Coleman in, Sigurdsson. I looked at the fixtures. I did fixture blocks. Next 6 game weeks. Who's a good player for the team with good fixtures? Back to basics. I just went completely dullard, back to basics. So I got in like your likes of Coleman, Lukaku, captained him a lot at home. Sigurdsson. I went through all of those. Ali. And then, hey presto, I've been averaging until this game week, which will probably be more now. I've got 62 game week average, of an average of 45.6. So I was averaging 16 points above. So where did it go wrong? I didn't play my game. So lesson learned, whatever you think, for some people's game is to be Maverick. Do it. Some people's game like me is not to be Maverick, be a dullard. Do it. The lesson is stick to what you know. Stick to the game plan that you have.
Yeah, and I think your season... It's typical though, isn't it? Because I think I had a very much similar season a few years back where you're losing ground and then you go, okay, well, the only way I can rescue a really good season is to take risks now.
Yeah.
And you do that for a while, you slip further behind and then you go, okay, I'm going to have to settle for an okay season. And to settle for an okay season, you then start playing it safer. And then you get in the top 100,000, which is exactly the pattern you've done. And I think that's what happens. Once you fall behind, you've got a choice. You either try and go for the spectacular for a while and hope you can get it right, and you did, and it didn't work, and then you reverted to type. And I think a lot of people end up doing that, and that could happen to me or anyone else next season.
And I think, yeah, your season when that happened, and mine, very, very similar with that. And I think the other lesson to learn is just is that. Some of the smaller lessons people saying, I'm going to look at form over fixtures and all these, I'm going to go for 3-5-2 and forget all of those things. Every season is different. You've got to feel your way around it. And another thing I did is I gave myself a flexibility of going 3-5-2 after Christmas by getting Carroll in, who I was happy to bench or play. And that was another good thing because midfielders have absolutely owned this season, and that's undeniable. So that's what I say is lessons learned. Don't get too hung up on lessons on specifics of a season because every season's different. But my lesson is stick to what you know.
Andy, coming to you next. Well, I mean, how are you feeling about the season and what went right and wrong for you?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm just going to quickly. I actually had a quick look back at our game week 1 Scoutcast to see because we answered a question about top tips for success, which I think most of us answered from kind of what we'd learned last year. So really quickly, Johnny's was to play wildcards and chips around the double game week. Patience is a virtue. Yours was you don't. I think that you did exactly what you said in game week 1. You said you don't admit when you're wrong quick enough. You think it could be dangerous this year because there's so many players that could punish you. So you've got to learn to let go quickly and jump on form players and get the value because there's just going to be so much to choose from. And which I've done this season and I'm going to take into next season, and I'm glad Granville's not around when I say this, is I said that I was going to be more boring this year and make the more sensible moves because like you two have just said, in the previous season when things go wrong, I like to raid transfer and take hits. And I've taken hits this year, but I've thought about them more long term. So I bought in a player who's good for the long run, whereas last year I remember taking out Aguero for Sturridge, who had just come back from injury before Christmas, who no one was thinking about, and he ended up getting injured and I had to take him back out again. So yeah, I think for me it's to carry on being boring and not to chase, again, something I said in game week 1 was not to chase differentials when we think of our fantasy football scout bubble. So like for this week, for example, I was looking at bringing in De Bruyne because he's only 2% owned. But when I thought about Sané, I thought that's still only 1 in 4 people that have got him. It's still a good differential, and I don't have to take a hit, so I'll just do that. So I kept Sanchez, I kept Ibra, I kept in the big hitters. I didn't go too wrong, and it's a marathon, not a sprint, is what one of the community guys said. And I did poorly. I was around 1 million in game week 12 or something like that, and now I'm getting into the top 10k, and it's literally because if I've had any doubt, I've just captained Sanchez. And he scored big, so he's got me the point. So I think lesson learned is I'm still going to take hits where needed, but I'm going to think about them long term and not to worry too much about differentials and just keep playing the game.
Yeah, very good. I mean, it's very interesting looking back to game week 1 and what we said there. And I think that, the point I raised about I thought the market was going to be busy early on in the season, and it was. And I think it went wrong for me a couple of times doing that. I mean, I got off Sanchez and went on Hazard. And that was an absolute disaster. I missed out on the 23 points. But the policy of moving fast on players to get their value, it worked out for me. And I think, I think now I've taken less risks, and I think one regret I've got is I should have kept that policy up to the very end. Once I got within the top 500, I started taking fewer risks, understandably, because then I had the top 100 in mind. And I think I've played safer since I got in the top 500, because it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to win it now. My aim has got to be top 100, and I've got to do it. I've got to creep into that rather than try and go for the spectacular and smash it through, because if I do that, I'll probably end up losing 5,000 places. So I haven't kept the policy up, and so I'm a bit disappointed in myself. I should have gone Hazard to De Bruyne this week, for example, but I think the policy has served me well this season. But like Jonty says, it could be completely different next season. It could be 3 main strikers, Jesus, get Jesus in, get Kane in, get another big striker in maybe, and just keep them all season and go budget midfield. It might be that, but this season it was definitely midfielders ruling it, and the midfielders, the heavy hitters in midfielders, took it in turns to come to the fore and took it in turns to rise in price. If you had 5 in midfield, which I did from about game week 15 onwards, you had more flexibility to get on the bandwagons in midfield, because I always had a midfielder that I thought, okay, I can get rid of him and get the bandwagon in. Whereas if you had 4 in midfield, it's harder to do that, because there's a player there you think, if I lose him, he could perform. And that gave me a little bit of an edge, and I think that made my season. So I think the move to 3-5-2 was a good one, because it gave me that flexibility in midfield to get on bandwagons. That's why my value was so high at the end of the season. Whether that'll work next year, I don't know. One thing I'm really interested in, this has been the season of wing-backs. How many teams are going to see with wing-backs next season? One of my policies going into next season is going to be looking at full-backs who could possibly be adapted to wing-backs, because I think that's going to happen a lot. We've seen it a lot at the end of this season, and I think that's what we've got to approach the pre-season with, is putting a lot of maybe cheaper fullbacks who could end up playing wing-backs in their team, because a lot of teams will go 3 at the back. So, yeah, that's another lesson learned. I think looking at wing-backs, looking at full-backs, I think centre-backs could be struggling next year. What have you learned this season?
Nothing. I've got 2 main problems I've had every year since I started playing FPL. Stubbornness. I avoid players who are clearly in form. They've got great fixtures, who clearly can do well, like Josh King. Avoided him all year. And I just try and be too clever with things. So I make a good decision, like bringing in Sanchez and capturing him against West Ham, and then I don't bring in Lukaku for Bournemouth. So it all balances out, and I end up around the 100k mark where I am now. And so every year I say to myself, well, if I notice something going wrong, take a hit and fix it. I should have seen that Tadic was rubbish, and I should have bought in King. It would have been an easy switch, even for a hit, and I didn't. Why not? I do it every year. So that would be what I'd tell past as. I'd say, just take a hit if you need to, and just get in the players who are clearly in form and doing well. But future as won't do it, because he's an idiot. So what can you do?
I don't know. I mean, I think hits have been my friend this year as well. It's another thing to get in value, and I must have taken a lot. I think I've spent 50 odd points in hits, and in the past that hasn't worked for managers. I mean, we've had winners of the FPL going, well, secret is don't take hits, but this season I think it has worked. I mean, why wouldn't you do it next year? Why wouldn't you change your policy? You think you're that stubborn, you've got to stick to it.
Yeah, I'm so stubborn that I won't change my stubborn ways. It's I can't help myself. I think the thing with hits is I want to change the way I look at hits, because I've always seen hits as being a way to bring in a risky player and captain them, in a fixture like I did with De Bruyne this week. It wasn't enough for me just to bring him in. I had to captain as well, and it's a 4-point hit. And you kind of think, to repay the hit, you need to captain them to get the points back. Whereas I think next year I want it. So I think a good example is this Coleman and Baines thing. I did talk about it a while ago. We all bought in Baines because we thought he was on penalties and everything, and thought he was really attacking, and then he wasn't. And Coleman was clearly the better option. And I just wish I'd taken that 4-point hit to bring in Coleman instead of Baines, because that would have been an isolated 4 points. No matter how many other hits I'd taken, that would have been 4 points, and it would have gained 20 points, something like that, over the period until he got injured. So I just want to kind of change the way I see hits. They don't always have to be this big, elaborate explosion of points in one game week.
No,
I have to start looking at them as more of a long-term investment.
Yeah, because you've got to look not only at the points, but at the value you're getting as well. A player like Coleman went up in value, a player like King went up in value. I think taking a hit for a player who is low in price and performing, you're probably going to make 0.5 out of him. So he's going to go up $1 million, because as soon as a player who's low in price starts performing, the bandwagon just picks up pace. It's not so much like De Bruyne has done well recently, but his ownership's not going to shoot because he's such a big price. Whereas someone like King, anyone can get him in. There's no obstacle to investing in him. So he's going to shoot up. So taking a hit early to get a player like King, you're probably going to get not only returns, but you get team value as well. And I think that's one of the lessons this season. Whether we'll get a player like King again, I don't know. He's going to be in the team of the season, isn't he? Okay, Luke, what about yourself?
Yeah, just echoing a lot of that stuff there. I mean, the worst you're going to get out of that, like you said, there is team value. I mean, if he does rubbish for everyone, and you've still gained money out of it. Whereas if you try to go for a differential, you probably don't make money. If anything, you probably lose money. And you've got to bank on him outscoring the popular option, not just doing well. He's got to outscore him as well. So for me, I don't know. For me specifically this season, I can point at only a few things really that I've done wrong, but they've been big issues. And I didn't have Heaton all season. Heaton's been an absolute monster. And I chose Cedric over Alonso all that time ago. I dread to think how many points that's cost me. A ridiculous amount, probably close to 80, 90 points, possibly even more. So yeah, they're little specific incidents that I could have done different. But for me, my thing's always been the same. I'll try to avoid going with a popular captain just because I've always had that mindset of to actually win this thing overall. I'm not satisfied with just coming top 1,000 or top 100 or something like that. I actually think to win it, you've got to hit a few lucky captains that people don't have. That may not be the case. That's probably just my own silly thoughts. But I like the feeling of hitting a captain that no one else has got. And I'll never lose that. And one day, who knows, maybe I will get something crazy like a top 10 finish. But I'm happy to, go for that, to reach for the stars and come around 100,000 maybe. That's just the way I like to play the game.
No, I mean, it's been a fascinating season. I mean, has it been more difficult? I think it has, because last season, obviously, we had Mahrez and Vardy and Kane and Ali, and they were so strong, and Mahrez and Vardy automatically made it easy because we had so much money elsewhere.
It comes down
and
to
if you got on them early, sorry,
it comes down to the individual again. For me, my worst season ever that I've actually been playing properly was last season. I just couldn't get to grips with the fact that Leicester were godly and Chelsea were rubbish, and the big hitters were rubbish throughout the whole season pretty much. And I put my faith in them. And I had my worst ever season. And, other people have done really well. It comes down to the individual. Every season is different. We've said it before. And everyone's going to have a different tale of how it went, depending on how they did. So I don't think you can put any sort of quantifier on it, personally.
But I do think this season we haven't had a template anywhere near as strong in previous seasons. I mean, what do you feel about that, John? We've said it a lot on the Scoutcast, but I genuinely believe that. I think there's been templates forming for a little while, and then we had Aguero getting sent off and injured and suspended, and Ibrahimovic going out, a massive dry spell when it looked like he was going to be set. Jesus coming in, Sanchez dipping in that form, Hazard dipping in that form. We've never had 4 or 5 heavy hitters consistently performing for 10, 12 weeks in a row, have we? It's been in and out all the time.
And if you go back to that game week 1 Scoutcast, I think that was the first time we used the phrase "you can't have them all," and that's been the phrase this season, because the way the players have been priced and the way those players in those price brackets have performed has meant that we haven't had any real £7 or £8 million strikers to go for, or even 5 to 6 million ones. And we've had some cheap ones temporarily, like Joe Allen or Capoue, but overall, they've been really expensive, and they also haven't been. They've been, as you said, they've been hitting form. So Sanchez has been getting 3 weeks for something. Ibrahimovic, great first 3 or 4 weeks, nothing until game week 11. And so the problem has been is that really expensive players have been absolute must-haves for tiny bits, and it's been really hard to get that template going. And that's what's done me in this season. It was so difficult to do that. And in a minute, we'll talk about best and worst players. And one of the factors of the players that I think have been the best have been the ones that have tried to counter this problem, that there's been a real lack of players in certain price brackets and too many expensive players doing well for little bits.
Okay, let's talk about players. I mean, I think we can. I'll start, and you can point to bad players that have let us down, like Tadic, for example, a classic, and it looks like he's always going to be that. I'll tell you what, though, I'll put it to you that probably the worst player I think this season in fantasy terms has been Eden Hazard. I really do. Even though he's got so many points, he's ranked second to Sanchez. Whether he's going to be after this game week, I don't know. But can anyone actually pinpoint when was the right time to sign him? Because I've had him in and out of my squad all season. I don't think I've got a decent run out of him, really. He killed me with the Sanchez haul at West Ham. He had moments where he looked absolutely stellar. He had that Vardy performance, didn't he, Jonty, against Everton? We say Vardy. We talk about the eye test a lot. And every now and then a player passes the eye test with such flying colours, you don't even think about it. You rush to the laptop, get him in. Vardy did it last year, and it worked.
Yeah.
Hazard this year, it was a complete red herring because I went for it, hook, line and sinker. I was selling him on the site, and then he went dull again. He came back. He's had a run. He's done well at Stamford Bridge. But he's been pricey, and he's not really been consistent enough in pockets where you could get him in and you go, right, he's set for 10 weeks. He's going to do me fine. I think he's been a bit of a villain, and he certainly has been a villain for game week 37. So that I'll put it out there for me. Hazard, villain of the season for me, and not the worst player, of course. He's a fantastic, amazing player, but as a fantasy asset, I think he's been massively frustrating. Andy, your views on a player? Who do you want to pick out?
Just on the Hazard thing, do you not think that some of that is just down to us being actually a bit too knee-jerky with him? Because I'm looking at his scores now, and there's like 10, 5, 2, 6. That's a decent average over 4 weeks. Then, okay, it's a little bit lower. Then it's 11, 2, 5, 11. So he's got quite consistent scores. I just think we didn't want to keep him because we were always chasing other players. And obviously, once Ali and Ericsson came along, he was probably a bit too expensive. But I don't know, villain of the season's a bit harsh for me, I think.
But I just think in my season, I'm just talking personally. I don't think you know, if anyone who's had him over the season, they've done really well. But you had to get him in and stick with him, didn't you?
Yeah.
And whereas I think with the other heavy hitters, you know, there's been periods where, you know, we've caught this Sanchez. Anyone getting Sanchez in 3 weeks ago has done well out of it because he's got the scores now. I just think, and Hazard is one of those players where because he had that miserable season last year, whenever we started dipping in form, we were like, oh, hello. Yeah. Is he having one of those? Is he having a massive dip? Is he going to have like a 10-week dip? And he's never had that. He's never really gone off the boil to a point where it's been a disaster. But he's just, every 3 or 4 weeks, he gets you a score and you go, oh, okay, I'm keeping him. Or okay, I'm going to get him back in. But then it's just not enough.
He should be a player that you should consider captaining every week. And you never do, which is a shame. Yeah,
exactly. It's a strange one because I thought he was going to be up there with Sanchez for the points, and he is. When you look at him, you look at his total points, you think, well, he's surely one of the assets of the season. He should be in team of the season. But when it comes to naming the team of the season, I don't know about whether Hazard will be in there. On total points, he should be. But my experience of having him this season hasn't been great at all. It doesn't make any sense when you look at his totals.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. But for me, I think obviously Coleman had a good spell, but Everton defence in general probably wasn't as good as I thought. At one point, I bought in Baines in game week 6. He suddenly had an injury on match day, which we didn't know about. And then every week it was, he should be back. And then he got to the game and he wasn't back. So I had him for like 6 weeks. He played no minutes and I had to get rid of him. And I think at the start of the season, we were all bigging up Williams as well.
Don't get me started on
Williams. He would just convert over. He'd keep on, every time they got a clean sheet, he'd get the 3 bonus, and it just didn't happen. So he was actually a bit of a letdown. I thought he was going to be a really good pick this season. I don't think I've even owned him.
I sold him before that Arsenal game when he scored, and he came off my bench when he got sent off against United at the 90th minute. He's my villain.
Oh yeah, that was bad. That was bad. But yeah, Williams and Baines. I think obviously Coleman had a spell, but Everton defence, I just thought it was going to be a bit better than it was for me.
So, is Williams your villain? Or have you got any more names to roll out?
I've got so many: Tadic, Williams, Benteke. I think one of the main villains, and I think for a lot of the community, was John Stones, because he was like the 5 million premium asset, wasn't he? At the start of the season, everyone had him. And he just turns out he's rubbish. Rubbish.
Williams Pep Guardiola, not John Stones.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, I think when he came into City in that price, we were like, oh, he's essential, isn't he? City defender at that price. I had him for about 10 weeks, held on to him, foolishly thought that eventually it would work out. And even with 1 week to go, I'm still thinking, oh, he could get a clean sheet the final day. But he definitely has been a massive letdown. There's no doubt about that.
And he's responsible for our Caballero.
Yeah, absolutely. So villain right to the end. Luke, how about yourself?
I can think of a couple. I still think Aguero's right up there. I mean, I just think beginning of the season, Aguero, Pep Guardiola, we all sat here thought he was going to get 30 goals, didn't we? If he could stay fit. And it turned out he got 3 red cards instead and did pretty much nothing apart from score penalties. He's come into the fore now and he's probably still a decent option. But I think for the first half of the season, Aguero was a big letdown along with KDB. I think Costa as well was a big one. He was on that yellow card ban, if you remember. The guy kept scoring. None of us wanted to bring him in. And he literally scored every week. He must have lost about 50 points over the course of about 5-6 weeks. I think those two have been, because they offer massive potential, because I love them, I think they should do so well. Yet they hurt, I think.
It's the same for Hazard. He should be an amazing player.
Yeah.
And what's frustrating, that Hazard's price not going to go down next year because the points total says he's a heavy hitter asset. But I'm not going to touch him, I don't think. I mean, he'll have that phase again where he lures me in with an absolutely incredible performance and looks like he's going to score penalties left, right and centre and get goals from open play. But I'm going to be wary of him again, and he's going to be expensive again. And where I think Aguero will probably go down in price if he's still around because of the Jesus factor. That's going to be interesting how they price those two, because it's a difficult call. Aguero the pedigree, but Jesus has come in and outscored him recently when he's been on the pitch. But then Aguero has been consistent. Aguero this season, towards the end of the season, became that drip striker like Costa has been. But how much are we willing to pay for that? We're not going to pay 13 million.
The bottom line is we still don't know really if he's going to play them both every week.
No,
that's the other issue. Are they going to rotate? We don't really know.
No, he's an interesting player going into next season. John T, coming to you then. Come on, you must have some name. Jason Punchin?
Yeah, Jason Punchin. Yeah, not really. Jason, nothing key player, really. But no, the real heroes, I think, are the ones in value. Because I mentioned before, we've got too many expensive players. You can't have all of them. And then, so there's a real lack of ones in it. So it's really searching for good value players. So Heaton, 4.5, absolute legend. And we knew he was going to be, because last time Burnley were in, he got all those save points, so we didn't really care about clean sheets. In the back, Charlie Daniels, he's 4th for value defenders. Alonso, 5th. So these are the two ones they go for because they were really underpriced. Alonso, 5.896 million, underpriced. Charlie Daniels as well for those all of those double-digit hauls. Midfield, and this is the king of them all, is the king, Josh King. Top for value across all players. And he's been consistent as well. He's everything you want. And that's why I think he is, for me, the player of the season. All of those goals for such a low price. He's the Mahrez of this season.
And he came at a perfect time, didn't
Andy Carroll before. All of these players that did well when they were really low price. Sigurdsson to a lesser extent, but I still think he's really good value. So that's what, game week 1, I looked at Carl Walker and I didn't get him in. Carl Walker was 5.5. I didn't get him in. And next season, lessons learned, I'll be looking at players like that. And I'll be thinking, oh, yes. And then in attack, Lukaku. Now, in attack, there are 11 midfielders who offered better value than the highest value attacker, and that was Jermaine Defoe. So according to value, in terms of points per pound, Jermaine Defoe has been the best striker this season. And because he's the only one who was around that 7 million spot. He was on his own, this isolated figure in this wonderful price bracket. But for me, it's Lukaku, because we're talking about trolls and Hazard. Your description of your experience with Hazard, you basically described a fantasy troll, and that's what he is. He doesn't score when you want him to. He does when you got rid of him. Now, Lukaku's the opposite. An easy game at home, chances are he's going to do well. He didn't the last time, but that was a real rarity. And away from home against tough sides, you might get something, probably won't. So you know not to captain him. He's been a perfect player. And part of the reason I rose up the ranks, because I just kept captaining him against those easy home games against Bournemouth, etc. Brilliant player.
Yeah, I've got to mention Defoe actually, because he was pivotal in my season. Luca testified to this. I got him in at exactly the right time, got all his value out of him, got him out at the right time. That was probably my best decision of the season. The way I managed Defoe this year, he did brilliantly for me.
Exactly.
And then I got him out for Lukaku just as Lukaku came good. That's basically, that made my season, those two decisions.
You've got 11 slots that you play each week, and you completely nailed one of those 11 slots perfectly. Defoe, get rid of him, get Lukaku in. Brilliant. Done.
Yeah, but he was a differential. So again, that's the factor that makes it that much better. If you can hit them, and it can happen, then happy days.
But there was a bit of fortune in it because he came in on the wild card, and it was just a budget thing. I was looking at it going, well, in that all I can afford is around the 7 million mark. Defoe's the best one in there. I don't rate Sunderland, but he had a good set of fixtures. and then I got rid on a bad set of fixtures. So it wasn't rocket science, but it was just, I followed those hunches, I guess, and sometimes it just forces you, fortunately, the budget.
It's fine margins. So take two of the players that Johnny just mentioned. The week I got Alonso in, I was looking at getting Fuchs in instead. And I just thought, nah, sod it, Chelsea will be all right. I'll take the hit. I'll get Alonso in. He repaid that hit immediately, and then obviously the rest is history. Josh King, I was looking, the same week I got Josh King was when he got 18 points. I was looking at getting Antonio. And because the week before I'd gone Sterling instead of Sané, I couldn't afford it, so I just got King in.
Exactly.
And obviously then it was ready to go. But just to mention another two heroes for me, I have to mention Ibra, because I held him for too long, but then I made the right choice to keep him at that Swansea game when I think he got 2 goals. And he did really well. And then I captained him over Christmas when people were still doubting him, so that did well for me. And end of the season, Son, I got him in game week 29, only got 2 points, but then he got 6, 7, 19 and 10. Cheap Spurs player. He was a hero for me at the end of the season.
Yeah, and I also Ericsson is a player I absolutely love, and he's done very well for me. And even now, I'm like loath to get rid of him, even for the whole game. So yeah, I mean, a lot of positives in this season, I've got to say. And I think a lot of players were well priced. I think it's unfortunate we didn't get the mid price out of the strikers. It's just one of those things, the way the market fell, and the way injuries fell. Josh King's going to be interesting next year, because I think Josh King is going to be in that 8 million, 8.5 bracket for forwards. I don't think the FPL can go, right, make him 9, 10 million, because he's still playing for Bournemouth, and we don't know, if he's still there. I still think 15 goals is probably his ceiling. But that prices him around 8 million, 8.5, I would say, or maybe 9, but because he's on pens. But I think he'll be a good player to have next year. But then that means you're going to play 3 up front, and I'm still nervous about doing that. I think it's still going to be too heavy hitters in the budget for me.
So it will be interesting with the promoted sides that come up next season, because what we've really lacked is, because there's been lots of sides this season that have no striker at all. I mean, Bournemouth effectively haven't. Josh King's been their main man, midfielder. Liverpool, Firmino's been that false nine. Sanchez, when was he? Midfielder again. He's been Arsenal's best scorer.
Shrinks every season.
Yeah, and so it does shrink, but we need to be looking at the 3 sides that are coming up, because what we're looking for really is a cheap 5 to 7 million striker that's gonna do a Defoe, basically. That's what we're looking for. And so there's 3 sides to be coming up. We need to be looking closely at them and seeing what's happening with them, and also the transfers as well. That's why I quite like the summer. I like the transfer market. I like seeing who teams are getting in. Where's Jermaine Defoe going to go as well? Can he hit the ground running early on again?
Yeah, I mean, Dwight Gale's your man, isn't he? He's going to be the one that people are going to be sniffing around. He's going to be this season's Andre Gray, if you like. But look at Andre Gray. Didn't do it, did he? So
yeah, and that's what it is. He comes with a risk as well. I think one thing that does happen every season is that there's a player in that price bracket that does quite well in the first game week, and they tend to go on a bit of a run. They get their confidence. We saw it. I think it was my first season. Was it Zaki? Wigan?
Royalty.
Do you remember it? And I didn't get him in the first game week. I was really new to it. I got him in the second game week because he did well the first game week. And I just kept him for another 6 game weeks. He kept going. To some extent, Negredo did that at the beginning of this season. Everyone was going, why is everyone getting... We remember Negredo. Why is everyone getting Negredo in? He still kept getting some quite good scores early on. And that's what I think I might do differently. Just keep my options open for that and see who that cheap bandwagon is game week 1 in the striker and try and get them in.
Interesting stuff. Great to look back, though. Very good indeed. We'll do more of that over the summer, like I say. For now, let's look at game week 38. Let's look forward. There's one more game week to go. Let's celebrate it. Let's embrace it. It's going to be pretty random, as is this next section, I guess. Clean sheets. Oh, this is a clean sheet. Is there going to be such a thing? Andy, you're first. Go on.
I've got a few written down, but I don't think there's going to be many. I'm going to take Tom Heaton, Burnley against West Ham. I think they'll probably get a clean sheet there.
Yeah, I think you're right there. West Ham got nothing up front at the moment, have they? Burnley, they're safe. They'll play that out. They'll win that 1 or 2-0. Sam Vokes is on fire, of course. Budget striker. Nod to Luke there. A little bit of a smile on his face when I mention that name.
I actually looked. I think he's the 12th highest scoring striker in the game. So you laugh, but he's right up there. That shows you how bad that bracket is of strikers.
No, absolutely. It is. And he's not even started, is he? Very often.
No, exactly.
Burnley, that's good. As your clean sheet?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care who Chelsea put out. I just can't see Sunderland scoring, even if they're playing their under 10 team. They're just absolutely hopeless. So Chelsea, clean sheet.
Fair enough.
Terry to get another goal as well.
Yeah, could do. Is he going to start? Is he going to start back-to-back games? I mean, I know. I was surprised to see him starting midweek. I thought he'd be waiting for this final game.
Yeah,
I'm not convinced. I actually think I know we were saying earlier, I think Azpilicueta is going to start again, and I think Cahill and Louise is going to come in. And I think they may do the captain switch. So Cahill goes off, Terry comes on just to finish.
Yeah, give him the armband. Yeah.
Yeah. So I obviously, like Luke says, we just don't know. But I think Azpilicueta, he started every game. I think he's just going to start the last one as well.
Okay, clean sheet, Jonty.
Well, what I do every week. Who's playing Middlesbrough? Well, that's Liverpool. So.
Yeah.
No.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Luke, why? What, you disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree. I wanted that one.
Okay.
God, I don't know. Do you know what? Even though they're away and everything says it won't happen, do I want to say City? Did Company get injured or did he just go off?
I think he was injured, but he played on for a bit, so I don't know how bad it was.
Okay. If Company's playing, I'd say City looks pretty nailed, but I won't risk that then. Taking Burnley. I might go Arsenal. Everton are shocking away from home. They just can't do anything. So I'll go Arsenal, even if I think Koscielny says he's trying to make this game, doesn't he? So hopefully he'll be back as well. So
Koscielny play, yeah. You better do. Blimey, he's let me down badly. I'm going to go Spurs. I was just thinking they're going to roll them over 3-0. I think it'll be routine. Yeah, they're going to put up a bit of a fight. They've got nothing up front, though, have they? I mean, if they can't score against Sunderland at home and against Palace away when they're desperately fighting for their lives, how are they going to fight? How are they going to score against the best defence in the league when it's all over for them? I just don't see it. Unless Spurs gift them one, unless Spurs make an error, and they haven't been making errors all season. So I'll go Spurs.
Out. He's been important for the Markovic. He's out, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's a spark for them. Grzycki can't do it on his own. He's trying, but it's a shame because Hull have had their worst two performances of the season, I think, in the last two games. So they're no confidence. If Maguire's out, he's a leader for them as well. I think Spurs will get one early and then roll them over 2-3-0. So I'll take Spurs in that one. Fancy Island this is tough. I haven't prepared anything for this. I don't think I'm allowed Fabregas, but I'm going to go with Fabregas because I just think that he's a player that he's not a risk really on the basis he's got returns in 10 of 11, but his ownership is low enough, and I think going from Hazard to Fabregas would be risky. So I'll take him. I know Green Windmill is shaking his head now and throwing things at the screen, but I'm sorry, Green Windmill, I'm just out of inspiration. Okay, Andy, your fancy on a risk.
Yeah, I was just basically waiting for him to start the last game, and he did, so I'm going to take Sturridge. I think he's done well enough for now to keep the start, even if Firmino's back. Hopefully, Origi will be the one that gets benched. And he showed when he's in front of goal, he always scores. So just hopefully he can stay injury-free over the rest of this week. Sturridge for me.
Yeah, no, I think Sturridge is a good pick, and we're looking at who's going to get a hat-trick final day. It's there, isn't it?
If I was... See, I'm inside the top 10K now, I think, so I'm not going to risk it, I think, because I want to stay there. But if I was really chasing someone, needed like maybe a 20, 25-point gap, I'd be looking at captaining him this week, I think.
If you were
number
5 in the world, 40 points off the lead, you'd do it, wouldn't you? Sturridge in captain.
I would, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think you have to. I mean, obviously, you can check the rest of their teams, see who they've got and who they haven't. But yeah, I think Sturridge is a pretty good option this week for a big points gap.
Because it's going to be fascinating the top. Because I think it looks like Ben Crouchy's going to go in with a healthy lead, depending on how Kane does for Uwe Ahmed tomorrow. But if you're 5th, 6th in the world, you've got to look at it and go, well, to make up 40, 50 points, I'm going to have to do something crazy with the captain. And also, you've got to exploit the fact that the guys 1st and 2nd, they're not going to take risks, surely. They're going to look at it and go, I can't take a risk here. I can't. It'd be crazy. So they're going to try and edge over the line with what they've got. They're going to make one transfer that's going to be fairly conventional. Players 4th, 5th, 6th, they can just go crazy because it doesn't matter, does it? Lowest they're going to drop is about 20, 30 in the world. So Sturridge is in that perfect profile, isn't he? A player who could come in and get a hat-trick on the final day against Middlesbrough because he is that kind of player who can just do it. He can just score natural goal scorer if he's fit. He's playing against Borough. He fits that bracket. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in some top 10 teams on Sunday. Let's see if that happens. As your fancy on this?
Well, I'm going to go with one of my fantasy heroes of the season and one of my favourite players in the league, Adam Lallana, who's a bit of a forgotten man at the moment.
Yeah.
But, he just did so well for me at the start, and I loved having him in my team. And then he got that injury and never quite looked the same. But he's back now, and he's against Middlesbrough, who were rubbish. So maybe he'll repay my love with points.
Middlesbrough rubbish, apparently. Jonty, do you agree with that?
Yep, he's right. That's why they're going back to the Championship.
Yeah, fair enough. Yes, is that all of us? I'm lost now.
No, I haven't picked one.
Fancy on a miss.
Two of us
In
left.
you go, Jonty.
No, I'll let Luke go first.
Okay, Luke, fancy on a miss.
I know it's risky because it's a defender, but I'll go Joel Matip.
My original pick tonight.
Yeah, sorry. I just watched the Liverpool game, the 4-0 one. I was watching that, and he got on the end of about 3 or 4 corners, and he probably should have scored. He hit one down, it come up into the bar. He looked like he really wanted a goal. I could see it in his face. So, home to Middlesbrough, surely a banker clean sheet and maybe a goal. So, there we go. I'll go with that.
Very good pick indeed, I think. I like that one. It'd be interesting. I mean, if you're not going to take a risk, you're probably not going to go a defender. But I do think, we've seen recently defensive acquisitions, Aspilicueta, showing you can get 15-point score. That would be very handy indeed. Jonty, where's your risk going?
Wayne Rooney.
Okay, I've heard of him. Yeah.
He will start because he's not favoured for the Europa Cup final. He's 8.6, so he's in that magical bracket that we can't quite pin down. He's had 3 goals in his last 4 starts, incredibly, since he looks and plays like a potato at the moment. And he's had bonus twice over that period. So, and he's against Palace. So I'm starting to move my allegiance to most hated team from Middlesbrough. I've got to move it to Palace because Brighton are coming up to the Premier League next season. So I need to start the rivalry with Palace, and it's going to start with Wayne Rooney hammering a hat-trick against hapless Palace.
Is he your hat-trick pick for this week then?
He's my hat-trick hero, Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, I mean, is he another one that a top 10 manager would look at and go, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go with Rooney. No. Luke don't like it.
He's just so bad when you watch him play. I can't. No, I'm not having that one. Not at all.
You're not agreeing with that then?
It's just probably as a United fan, that's why I'm saying that.
No, fair enough. I mean, for me, potential hat-trick hero probably is Vardy. I'd think that Bournemouth are going to concede chances, and Vardy's been electric, and Leicester will want a party on the final day. So I think Vardy would be my pick there, other than Sturridge. I think Vardy will find his way into a few teams on the final day.
I love Benteke against United.
Really? Yeah, United?
Yeah. United could play anyone, couldn't they?
They could. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, that just about rounds it off. I think it's been another great Scoutcast. It's a shame the final one of the season, guys. It's good that we got 5 on there. It's good that we dressed up. We've got our holidays to book now. Find your passports. I don't know where mine is, but over the summer we are going to do Scoutcasts over the summer. I think we've not done them before, but I think I like doing when the fixtures come out. When the player lists come out, I think we'll get together and do something around those times as well. Andy's going to be streaming, of course. Andy, I might nip in and do a couple of streams. Are you going to be doing some streams over the summer? I guess you are.
Probably the same, similar, when the price cut. I think otherwise I'm going to have a break. But yeah, if you're free this week, you can come on.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that.
Shoot me an email.
Yeah, we'll do it. I might do a few interviews over the summer as well with some of the top managers from this season. I'll try and get some interviews and do some pre-recorded stuff. We're going to do more video, I think, over the summer and certainly into next season as well. We'll see what we're going to do. But it's been fantastic having your company on the Scoutcast, the listener I'm talking to here. And thanks for listening. The numbers have been going up this year, which is great. Which means we're going to do it all over again next season, and hopefully these guys who are with me tonight are going to be with me throughout next season as well. It's been fantastic having your company over the season, guys. Many thanks for putting this together. It's a big effort to get together of an evening, particularly when the game week's been miserable, but fortunately this week we had every motivation in the world. Despite Hal Robson-Carnew's best efforts at the end there, we still got through the Scoutcast with a smile on our face. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. It's a good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all. See you next season.